Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un failed to reach agreement during their summit in Hanoi. Trump's former personal attorney calls the president a liar in his testimony to Congress. And in Thailand, thousands of air travelers inconvenienced by Pakistan's closure of its airspace.
Hello and very good evening. The second summit between US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ended with no agreement on a plan to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. The US refused North Korean demands to lift all American sanctions in exchange for more steps to end Pyongyang's nuclear program. Elmi Leung has this report from the summit venue in Hanoi.
It was supposed to be the summit in which tangible progress would be made towards persuading North Korea to get rid of its nuclear weapons program. Instead, the two-day encounter ended abruptly today without anything of substance being agreed upon. US President Donald Trump said his summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un failed to reach agreement due to North Korean demands to lift the punishing US-led sanctions. Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said America wasn't willing to make a deal without the North committing to giving up its secretive nuclear facilities as well as its missile program. Still, the US president tried to put a positive spin on things, saying there was no ill will between the two sides.
And I think actually it was a very productive 2 days, but sometimes you have to walk. And this was just one of those times. Basically, they wanted the sanctions lifted in their entirety, and we couldn't do that. They were willing to denuke a large portion of the areas that we wanted, but we couldn't give up all of the sanctions for that. So we continue to work, and we'll see, but we had to walk away from that particular suggestion.
America's top diplomat also tried to play up the positive, despite both sides failing to reach a deal.
Look, we hope we do more, but everyone's very focused on how we continue to build on this. We are certainly closer today than we were 36 hours ago.
But a former American diplomat said it was naive of the Trump administration to expect Pyongyang to denuclearize.
They're not going to do that. They have 54 nuclear weapons. That's their source of survival for the future, and also Kim Jong-un's standing as a leader.
As Trump left Vietnam today, he insisted the summit ended on a good note. Still, he admitted there are no plans right now for a third meeting between him and Kim Jong-un. Elmi Leung, TVB News, Vietnam.
Well, our reporter Elmi Leung has been following this story in Vietnam, and Trump has already left Hanoi. But what about Kim Jong-un, Elmi?
Now, yes, Donald Trump has certainly left Vietnam. And as for Kim Jong-un, we've really heard very little from the North Korean side. Now, some reports say he will stay here in Vietnam for a couple more days, and it remains unsure if he will do a night tour around town like he did in Singapore. Now, there's also speculation that Kim Jong-un, while on his way back to North Korea, will stop over in Beijing to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. And that's all I have here in Vietnam. Back to you in Hong Kong.
And on to dramatic testimony from a man who once said he would take a bullet for President Donald Trump. Instead, Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, betrayed the president by painting him as a criminal in front of Congress.
Even though Michael Cohen is headed to prison for lying to Congress, he held nothing back to assassinate Trump's character. First on his list was the alleged crime of Trump paying hush money to a porn star and a former Playboy model to keep their claims of having sex with him secret.
He asked me to pay off an adult film star with whom he had an affair and to lie about it to his wife, which I did. I am providing a copy of a $35,000 check that President Trump personally signed.
Under U.S. law, individual campaign contributions intended to influence an election cannot exceed $2,700 US. Prosecutors will have to prove Trump's hush money was to influence the election versus protect his reputation. Then there's Cohen's testimony that Trump directed him to lie that the negotiations to build a Trump Tower in Moscow ended long before he ran for president.
I stated that we stopped negotiating in January of 2016. That was false. Our negotiations continued for months later during the campaign.
This could trigger a criminal conspiracy case against Trump for forcing Cohen to give false testimony to Congress. Then there's Cohen's allegation that Trump knew about and endorsed efforts to hack Democratic National Committee emails aimed at embarrassing Democratic presidential challenger Hillary Clinton.
Mr. Stone told Mr. Trump that he had just gotten off the phone with Julian Assange, and that Mr. Assange told Mr. Stone that within a couple of days there would be a massive dump of emails that would damage Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Trump could face criminal liability under election laws if he solicited help from a foreign power to embarrass Clinton ahead of the election. Then there's the allegation that Trump lied about not knowing his son, Donald Trump Jr., met with a Kremlin-linked Russian lawyer who offered dirt about Clinton.
And I recall Don Jr. leaning over to his father and saying, "The meeting is all set."
Under U.S. election laws, opposition research on Clinton would qualify as a contribution. From Vietnam, Trump denounced Cohen, but says at least he told the truth about no collusion.
He lied a lot, but it was very interesting because he didn't lie about one thing. He said no collusion with the Russian hoax. And I said, I wonder why he didn't just lie about that too, like he did about everything else.
A temporary closure of airspace over Pakistan snarled air traffic between Asia and Europe, leaving thousands of passengers stranded. Pakistan shut its airspace amid rising tensions with India after both countries claimed to have shot down each other's fighter jets over the disputed Kashmir region. But US President Donald Trump predicted there would be reasonably decent news coming from the ongoing conflict soon. Alan Buckner reports.
Pakistan's military says it shot down 2 Indian warplanes and released video of what it claims is a pilot it captured.
So, Wing Commander, you hail from which place in India?
Am I supposed to tell you this, Major? I'm sorry. I'm from down south.
You're from down south?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Pakistani military says it rescued the pilot from an angry mob and added he is being treated well. Tensions have escalated between the two nuclear nations in the wake of a suicide car bombing that killed at least 40 Indian paramilitary police in Indian-controlled Kashmir on February 14th. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan called for talks, and world powers including China, the US and the UK urged restraint.
We should not underestimate the dangers in this situation. You have two nuclear powers who have a long history of tension, squaring up against each other, and now at the start of some kind of military conflict. So it's an extremely dangerous situation.
Speaking in Vietnam, US President Donald Trump predicted there would be good news coming soon.
There's a lot of dislike, unfortunately. So we've been in the middle trying to help them both out, see if we can get some organization and some peace, and I think probably that's going to be happening.
The dispute caused disruption to air traffic between Asia and Europe after Pakistan closed its airspace. Thai Airways canceled flights to Pakistan and Europe, affecting at least 5,000 passengers. The airline said it will resume flights after China granted it permission to use its airspace. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
Canada's former Attorney General told a House of Commons Justice Committee she experienced sustained efforts from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government to interfere in a prosecution. Jody Wilson-Raybould said she felt it was inappropriate but not illegal because she wasn't instructed to seek a settlement with the engineering firm SNC Lavalin. The company was facing charges of bribing Libyan officials. Wilson-Raybould said Trudeau was worried about lost jobs if there wasn't a deferred prosecution and asked to help out with the case. Trudeau disputes her view of events. Wilson Raybould resigned for the cabinet earlier this month but gave no reasons.
British Prime Minister Theresa May has some breathing room after her promise to give Parliament a vote on delaying Brexit was boosting support for her unpopular EU divorce deal. Lawmakers have postponed a threatened rebellion aimed at blocking a no-deal Brexit. Yesterday, they voted in support of an amendment that spelled out May's proposed timetable. May has bowed to pressure and given Parliament the chance to delay Britain's scheduled departure on March the 29th if lawmakers fail to approve her divorce agreement with the EU. This would help safeguard against Britain leaving without a deal, something many think would be disastrous for the UK. The change, of course, was welcomed by pro-EU members of Britain's divided Parliament, who sought further guarantees the government would not try to renege on May's commitment. And still ahead on the news tonight. MTR passengers injured in an escalator incident at Ngau Tau Kok Station. Government land sales in the next fiscal year will produce fewer than 9,000 private housing units. And police crack a syndicate that uses false ID cards to book government-run football pitches.
From the Olmecs in ancient Mexico to modern-day artists. What do these beautiful artworks tell us about who we were? Tonight, Civilizations at 9:35 on Pearl Heritage. You challenge yourself.
Oh my God!
We have never had to finish this book. Oh my God!
And it's all good until Phil tells you.
Tell you that you are the last teacher around.
Friday, The Amazing Race, Season 30 at 8:30 on Pearl.
寶、細寶、大寶、大細都保。銀行有存款就自動受保，保利高達港幣50萬，其他貨幣存款一樣保。存款受法律保障。
有啲嘢可以放低一時，但好難放低一世。富慧相信退休之後，你可以更盡情去做你一直想做嘅自己。我哋會為你度身訂造退休3大範疇，結合儲蓄、保障、傳承，全方位支持你退休任我行。FWD 富慧保險。
And you? What would you do for love? Miss Dior, the new eau de toilette.
Ready to do some diving?
Go hit some cenotes.
All right, let's go.
Jonathan Bird takes us underwater to befriend sharks, investigate mysteries, and gaze at beauty.
Prepare to be amazed.
Sunday, Blue World, Season 5 at 8 on Pearl.
That was what we moved here for, was to breed alpacas.
It was the biggest impulsive decision they made, and it turned out to be one of their best.
We just fell in love with it. We got caught along with the excitement. I feel confident in what we do here.
Monday, Where the Wild Men Are, with Ben Fogle, Season 5 at 9:35 on Pearl.
Warm welcome back to TVB News. 9 people were slightly injured in an escalator accident at Ngau Tau Kok MTR station this morning. An investigation into the incident is underway. Haley Joe reports.
Ngau Tau Kok MTR station at around 9 this morning. A side panel component of one of the escalators got dislodged and 6 women and 3 men suffered leg injuries because of the protruding object. The escalator was switched off by MTR staff. The injured people were sent to a hospital for treatment. One of them said even though they got hurt, they didn't tumble down the escalator.
Preliminary investigation revealed that part of the escalator component protruded out from the side panel. So the passengers ride on the escalator will come into contact with this component. And minor scratches was found in the neck.
The escalator contractor was called to the scene to investigate what caused the component to get dislodged. The MTR Corporation said other escalators of the same type would be examined as well. Yet a passenger hopes the railway company will pay more attention to public safety.
Sometimes there are some staff standing there and remind people do not walk on escalators, don't watch on phones. But I think this is not enough. Maybe they should having a check on escalator maybe every 2 months and tell the public it is safe.
A regular inspection was carried out on this escalator last night, but no mechanical issue was reported. Haley Zhou, TVB News.
And one escalator engineer was given a suspended jail sentence in connection with an escalator scare at a Mongkok shopping mall 2 years ago. Ma Siu Lun denied a charge of failure to ensure that the escalator was thoroughly examined. But the 68-year-old admitted associated equipment and machinery was not thoroughly inspected. He was found guilty of 2 charges at the Kowloon City Magistracy and was slapped with 2 months in prison, suspended for 12 months. The incident happened in March 2017 when an escalator in Langham Place suddenly switched directions, injuring 18 people.
Strengthening livelihoods is one of the goals of Financial Secretary Paul Chan's latest budget. Yet the general public doesn't seem to be too impressed, at least on a radio show this morning. Christy Leung reports.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan faced a barrage of questions from 10 callers who got through on a radio phone-in program this morning. A lady questioned how the $10 billion fund for public hospitals can resolve the overcrowding issue apart from providing extra allowances for doctors and nurses. Chen stressed that work on providing more public hospital beds is already underway. He said it is also important to boost the morale of frontline medical staff. The Financial Secretary also proposed spending $20 billion on purchasing properties and converting them into service centers, such as rehabilitation centers and community centers for the elderly. A caller doubted that opposition to certain projects would still remain, questioning how much the properties would cost. There were similar concerns from lawmakers today.
Each property would cost more than $300 million. The government has got 30 idle government sites and vacant school premises. Why don't you use them? Why do you have to use public money? If this is not transfer of benefits, what is it?
During a separate press conference, the Labour and Welfare Secretary had this to say.
We have rules, procurement policies. We have full confidence that will be no sense of any providing any quote-unquote benefits to the private sector.
He added that the estimated 60 sites will be bought over a 3-year period, which would not cause any significant impact on the property market. Christy Leung, TVB News.
A shift in the government's housing policy will be affecting land sales for the upcoming fiscal year. That's as the development chief announced that plots of land the government is going to put up for sale in the next fiscal year would provide fewer than 9,000 private residential units. Caleb Leung has more.
Don't expect a big boost in the number of private residential units resulting from land sales for the 2019-2020 financial year. That's because the government only plans to sell 15 plots of land, which are capable of providing merely 8,850 housing units. The plots include 8 rolled over from the current fiscal year. The number will be boosted to 15,540 units if Railway Property and Urban Renewal Authority development projects are also included. The development chief said the low number reflects a shift in the government's housing policy.
The ratio between public and private housing has been adjusted from the previous 60%, 40% to now 70% to 30%. Accordingly, we have adjusted the number, the target for private housing residential units from 18,000 to 13,500. So that's the main reason.
For the 15 plots of land, 4 of them are on Hong Kong Island, 5 in Kowloon, and the rest in the New Territories. On the commercial side, 7 plots are labeled for commercial and hotel use, totaling more than 810,000 square meters. As for the first quarter of the new fiscal year, which is from April to June 2019, all eyes will be on Kai Tak. That's because all 3 plots of land to be put up for sale in the first quarter will be located in the area. The 2 plots for residential use are expected to yield 300 units, while the commercial plot may provide around 300 hotel rooms. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Police arrested 4 organisers of local football matches for allegedly using fake ID cards to book soccer pitches. They then resold the right to use the pitches for as much as 5 times the rental fees, involving a total of $1 million. Pinky Wong with the details.
Not as genuine as they seem. Police seized these fake identity cards during an operation 2 days ago, together with printers and blank cards. 4 people, including the alleged mastermind, were arrested on suspicion of conspiracy to defraud and using false instruments.
They are the organizers of amateur leagues in Hong Kong. You have to get pitches for your soccer games, and they through the LCSD system of booking.
Currently, you need to register on an LCSD system first to book a soccer pitch. Then the booking will undergo computer balloting. If successful, the LCSD staff will verify your identity with your ID card on the day of using the facility. Investigations showed the syndicate collected personal data and ID cards copies from members of some 20 football teams. The personal information was then used to create more than 300 accounts online for booking the pitches.
We would describe it as being quite high qualities. They scan it and then they do the balloting to increase the chance for them to get a soccer pitch.
If successful, the syndicate would sell the right to use the pitches at 2 to 5 times the rental fees. Officers also found that LCSD's system may not be able to identify fake ID card data. The police will continue to work with the department to improve its system security. Police advise the public to stay alert and safeguard personal data to prevent it from being used for illegal activities. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
All right, Tony, over to you for sports.
That's right. We've got some women's soccer to talk about first. Entertaining women's friendly between Japan and the United States. Alex Morgan gave the Americans the lead 2-1 with 15 minutes to go at the She Believes Cup in Pennsylvania. However, Yuka Momiki equalised in extra time. The final score was 2-2. Japan will next take on Brazil, while Team USA goes against England. Those matches will be played in Nashville, Tennessee, with the final game scheduled for March the 5th in Florida. This is the 4th edition of the Invitational Tournament. Cricket now, and England beat the West Indies by 29 runs in the 4th one-day international in Grenada. Johnny Barstow reached his 50 with a 6 off Devendra Bishu. Meanwhile, Jos Buttler made a career-best 150 from 77 balls. England posted a staggering 418 for 6. The hosts wasted a 162 by Chris Gayle. The English lead the best-of-5 series 2-1. The 5th and final one-day international is set for Saturday. Tennis and an upset at the Mexican Open. 2-time champion Rafa Nadal was ousted in the round of 16 in Acapulco by Australian Nick Kyrgios. The Spaniard squandered 3 match points. The scores were 3-6, 7-6 and 7-6. Kyrgios evened his record against the 17-time Grand Slam champion to 3-3. The 23-year-old advanced to the quarterfinals to face Stan Wawrinka of Switzerland. Defending champion Juan Martín del Potro is skipping the event because of injury. NBA now, and the Miami Heat defeated the Golden State Warriors 126-125 as Dwayne Wade hit the game winner. Wade came off the bench to score 25. Meanwhile, the Boston Celtics continued to sputter. The Celtics fell at home to the Portland Trail Blazers 97-92. This was their 4th straight loss. Kyrie Irving scored 31. Portland's Damian Lillard led all scorers with 33 points. The Blazers have won 5 in a row. And in Utah, it was the Jazz over the LA Clippers. Donovan Mitchell scored a game high of 32 points. All 5 Utah starters were in double figures. Big man Rudy Gobert had a double-double with 20 points and 13 rebounds. Los Angeles was just 5 of 26 on three-pointers. The final score was 111 to 105. The Jazz have won 2 straight to improve to 34 and 26 on the season. The Clips fell to 34 and 29.
And that is a wrap of our news.
Bye for now. Good night.
Wandering cattle are eating everything in sight, and rural villagers want them rounded up. Why is it so difficult to keep these animals under control? Also, ethnic minorities try to break glass ceilings as they struggle to find good jobs in Hong Kong. Pearl Magazine, Monday night at 8.
You're loved just as you are, and not for what you should be, and not just by God, but by us. We believe that this is the right kind of place. We believe the Hour of Power will always be a place where people can receive encouragement every day to realign with what God says and not what the world says, because the world can be really harsh.
Be inspired this Saturday morning at 10. Hour of Power on Pearl.